so much for coming today. I'm Anne Miller. I know you're very busy. So the reason we're here today is that, I've been doing educational testing with Zach at school as part of his extension learning, and I just wanted to update you briefly on how he's done in his tests. It's been a few months, but obviously we've been analysing them. Now firstly, just to get some background, I know you moved here from the UK last year, and Zach was put into the extension classes at the school, and I think he got a scholarship as well. So did he repeat part of year 3 when he came here?
Yeah, he repeated the first time.
Okay. And I know that overall Zach hasn't settled as well as I think you would have hoped and his teachers would have hoped. Can you just confirm to me your general thoughts on this at this stage?
Yeah, I think he struggled with his friendships and his confidence, and just hasn't settled in.
Yeah. Okay. So this is obviously the reason overall why Zach's class teacher and his extension teacher have asked me to do testing on him. It's really just to assess his core abilities, to make sure that it gives us a better picture as to why Zach isn't actually working to his potential, because obviously if he's a scholarship student and he's not at the top of the class, there's something that's stopping him from doing that. Now this overall testing is only a small part of the intervention from the school. It's one part of his assessment. The teachers will have talked to you about some of the other things they've been doing, and it's on an ongoing basis. Anyway, just to go to the test, I did 2 tests on Zach with a 3-month gap in between. One was done in July and the other was done in October. The first test is a reading test, and really it just analyses Zach's reading ability, his comprehension and his speed of reading. The other test is a verbal reasoning test, and that actually, I suppose it actually assesses his innate core abilities rather than what he knows. Because it's a test that he would never have done before. It's quite complex puzzles, etc. But it shows his intelligence rather than anything else. Now the only people who have seen the results of these tests are his class teacher and his extension teacher. They're on a closed file at the school, and nobody else has access to them except the headmaster. And nobody else will have access to them in future unless you give them written permission. Okay? Okay, so do you have any questions at this stage?
No.
No? Okay, great, we'll just move on. So the first test is the reading test. It shows how accurately he reads, how quickly he reads, and how he understands what he's just read. This test is a standardized test, and it means that it's been tested it's been tested on a number of children at the same age over a period of years in different schools. So it gives you a wide range of kids' abilities. The scores are all standardized as well. So for example, there's a raw score here, which is just the number of questions Zach answered correctly, but then we change that to what we call a standardized score, which means that it's all out of 100. So it's easy then to see whether Zach is above or below standard and what his average is. All tests also have a confidence level, what we call a confidence level, which means that when you're testing any child, there's a margin of error. The child mightn't be feeling well on the day, or there might be some distraction in the room when he's doing his test. So there's a confidence level for every test. This test has a 68% confidence level, which means that for every 3 times you give the test to the same child, 2 out of those 3 times, the score in that test will be the closest to his true score. But there is a margin of error, so we always keep that in mind as well. Okay? So looking at his actual scores, the first one that is relevant is his percentile rank. That's basically not a percentage. What it means is that he got 83 percentile rank in his accuracy, which means that he did as well as or better than 83% of students that did that test at his age group. He got an 81 percentile in his comprehension, and he got a 74 in his rate. Now, overall, they're very high scores, so he's obviously done very well. Overall, he's well above average. The next score is called a stay 9, and again, that's just a band which can be any number between 1 and 9. And typically, if a student is an average in whatever test they've done, they score 4 or 5 or 6. So Zach has scored, as you see there, 7, 7 and 6, which means that he again is above average on all of his scores, accuracy, comprehension and weight. Again, national profile level, that is specific to Australia, and it's actually a standard level that's been established based on the school year that you're in, and again it's between 1 and 5, and if you're up on the 4/5 level, you're well above average, and you can see he's achieved 4 to 5. And the last one there is his reading age. He achieved a score which was off the charts for his accuracy and comprehension. The scores only went up to 13, and he actually got a score. His reading age is off the charts, which means ultimately this overall test shows that Zach is a very capable and talented reader and has a very high level of vocabulary and comprehension, which is great news. So how is Zach's reading at home? I know he has an older brother, so what sort of genres does he read?
He reads every night, mostly action, books about action and adventure. Good,
okay. As I mentioned already, it's important to note that these tests are subject to a margin of error. This one probably has a slightly higher margin than the other one. And it's only part of an overall assessment of his progress. So although obviously Zach shows that he's attained a really good level of literacy to date, it's really important for everybody concerned to ensure that he maintains and builds on it. So reading at home on an ongoing basis is going to be really important for him, even though he obviously is an extension class in English as well. So any questions before we move on to the other test? No? Okay. So the other test is, there was a 3-month gap between the two, and interestingly his results were remarkably similar in that he achieved above average in this as well. This is a very different test though. It shows ability, as I mentioned already, rather than attainment, so it shows his core intelligence. This is a variety of vocabulary puzzles, word relationships, symbol manipulation, etc. And most of it Zach would never have come across before, which is the whole point of the test. As per the first test, it's a standardized test as well. It has been developed over many years with a variety of students within the same age group. The confidence level for this test though is 90%, which means it's much more accurate, which means that if we did this test, let's say 20 times, 19 out of the 20, we get very close to his true score. So it's quite an accurate test. The way this one works is that you do your raw score, you change it to a standardized score, and then they give you a band. You just add a couple of points at either end, which gives you that 90% confidence result. So again, you can see here that Zach is overall, between all of the different tests, he's at the top of average to the lower part of moderately high, which is actually a very good score. And his percentile rank, as we mentioned already, isn't a percentage, it's his percentile rank is 78, which means that he's achieved better or as good as 78% of the children who did this test at his age. Okay? So ultimately, from both of these we see that he's a smart kid, he's very capable, and there's nothing innate stopping him from doing well at school, which is good news. But as we said already, this is part of an overall assessment. We know that he hasn't really settled as well as he should. He isn't as engaged as he should be at school, and he seems to be struggling possibly with a change to an all-boys school. And he did say to me when I spoke to him the last time that he finds it hard to concentrate in his classroom. Would you agree to this general assessment? Okay, and it obviously hasn't changed as well as you'd hoped. Is he settling better now that he's another term under his belt, do you think? Is he coping better with the noisy class environment?
He's a bit better, but it's still
not really
as good as he was. No.
Okay, and how about his friends? Does he have...
He's still struggling with friendships, but he's trying to make new friends all the time.
Okay. Well, my original recommendation to his class teacher was that he remain in the extension classes, because I think he really needs to be challenged. And I think the smaller environment, even though it's only an hour a day, the smaller class environment is quieter, and he's definitely happy in those classes, and his extension teacher says that he does really well. So I think you'd agree that we'll keep him obviously moving on in that direction. I didn't think that there was much other major intervention needed, just maybe time for Zach to settle a little bit more and find his niche and a core set of friends. Having spoken to you today, I think I would probably add the fact that maybe if he was placed with a female teacher next year, that might help him as well. So, you know, I think this is, as I say, ongoing. You know, he's not going to be doing any more tests in the short term, but you know, his extension teacher and his class teacher are going to be working together to try and help him to settle. So do you have any more questions at this stage?
No.
No?
Good.
Okay. Well, look, thank you so much for your time, and feel free to contact me anytime through the school if you need to talk about anything, or if you're anxious about anything. Okay?
Thank you.
Great. And remember, this is confidential, so nobody else has access to it other than the teachers and the headmaster.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time. Take care.